how did you then go from your diverse athletic background to finding CrossFit?
That's funny. I feel like I just told this story. So when I kind of had an injury through gymnastics, I had like this chronic ankle injury and we couldn't figure out what was wrong. Finally got an MRI done. I was crooked landing. So I was always landing harder on my left side. So I actually chipped away all the cartilage in my ankle, like crushing one of the bones in my ankle. So I had surgery on that when I was 12, got all those little pieces of bone removed and that fixed up. And then it was kind of after that gymnastic, there comes a point where you hit a certain age. And if you're not a certain level, like you kind of ask yourself, why are you still doing this? It's so hard on the body. It's mentally hard. So that was kind of my big existential crisis at 12 years old was I kind of had to find something other than gymnastics because it was just too hard on my body to keep going. And I was kind of done. So I remember, I think I watched the movie Spy Kids. And so they were doing all these crazy like Taekwondo moves and like these like fight scenes. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I was like, I want to try Taekwondo. So we found this like random Taekwondo spot, like just hidden in this like little back alley. And we called them and they were like, yeah, she can come in for an intro. And funny enough, the guy who owns the Taekwondo gym also owns CrossFit gym and it's in the same building. So as I'm doing like my intro, I'm like looking over and there's a CrossFit class happening and I'm like, what are they doing? This is so weird. And like, I guess they noticed I kept like looking over and like just was fascinated by it. So his name's Mike. He's still a very big part of my life today. He asked me, he's like, so do you want to try CrossFit? I think you'd be good at it. And I was like, okay. So I came in and I tried the teens class the next morning. And Brett, I don't know if you've seen any of my posts, Brett's my coach still. He coached my teens class the next morning, coached my very first class. And apparently, I don't remember this, but after the class, I was asking him like a million questions. I was like, how do you do this? How do you do this? I bet I can do a regular legless rope climb faster than you can do a regular rope climb, like all these things. And he was like, oh my Jesus, someone help me. So that's how we started. And then Brett's been like my coach and kind of by my side, like since that very first day.
It sounds like you were very inquisitive from a young age, hearing you know, going first off to be interested in some back alley martial arts, and then, you know, looking over to CrossFit and asking your coach all of these things. And you used existential crisis for a 12-year-old. And we were just talking off air that you're talking about Rawls' theory of neutrality, which John Rawls, former Harvard professor, I have studied him a little bit.
Wow, you know more than I do.
His theory of justice, but
I'm the dumb one now in the room.
No, it's okay. I'm just curious. Like, have you always been that way? Like, is it fair to call you inquisitive? And is that something that you've always kind of found an interest in seeking out information and things like that, even in the CrossFit gym?
Yeah, hugely. I like to think of myself as a very critical thinker, sometimes too critical because I question everything. And my coach will probably listen to this and just be like, oh my God, like, yes. Because every time he programs something, I'm like, why this movement right here? Like, why don't we put this in instead? Because then this interferes with this. And then when I come back to this will be, and he's just like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But I hate you a little bit right now. Like, so I'm always questioning those things. And I think it's partly what like is going to lead to my success. Like it's something unique about me is I'm really bad at just following. Like I could never just follow like a plan. Like if you just gave me stuff and said, do it, I'd be like, I don't know about that. So that's why I'm so grateful for Brett. Because I tell him this all the time. I'm like, I am so sorry. I'm so annoying, but nobody else could deal with me. But a lot of it does come from my parents. I'm an only child, and both of my parents have PhDs. So my dad is a history of psychology professor, and my mom is a psychologist. So they are two of the brightest individuals I have ever met. So I guess spending my entire childhood with them, they've rubbed off on me quite a bit. So you can't tell, these are all my fathers.
Oh man, I love it.
I can't imagine when you have two parents, you know, who deal in the subjects that they deal, like when you're a kid trying to have any sort of argument or discussion with them. I'm guessing that more often than not, you wound up on the short end of the stick on that one.
Oh, I don't know. I learned quick.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Oh man.
Well, what were your teachers like? Were you like this with your teachers as well growing up?
Yes. But But I was also, it's funny, I've like always been a weird mix of like the annoying one that'll always be like, I don't think so. What about this? But then also kind of like the jock who's always been like big into sports. So it's kind of, I had a tough time in middle school, like figuring out which like group I belonged to. Cause I really liked the like nerdy bookworm. Like I was always reading, like I read To Kill a Mockingbird out of my own free will in 8th grade. And it's still one of my favorite books ever. But then I also was like doing CrossFit and was like way more jacked than all the guys and like loved sports and always wanted to play sports at lunch. So it was difficult for me to like pick a side in high school and junior high because you had to be one thing, right? So I've always definitely been a mix.
Yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird, one of my favorite books. In fact, one of my dogs is named Scout. So
Stop, I love that.
Yeah. So, and if I don't know if you've seen the movie with Gregory Peck, but it is one of the few movies that is as good as the book. One of the
100%.
That his closing argument speech is still one of my favorite scenes of all time.
It's I love that book. I think I've read it 3 times.
Yeah. How then when did you figure out, okay, I like doing CrossFit. I'm actually good at it. I want to actually do something with this now.
So it's funny because PEI is so like, there's not another elite CrossFit athlete within an 18-hour drive of me. So there was only, when I started CrossFit, there's 3 CrossFit gyms. Now there's still 3, but 2 of them are ours. So like we have a very, very small CrossFit community on the island, but a very tight knit. So like, I do feel like in a sense, compared to a lot of the other teen athletes, I was the same age, but I was behind them in just like wrapping my head around this whole CrossFit universe. Especially because there's no big comps around me. The first time I competed like really in person was basically a couple months ago or last month. So I think when the first time we realized I actually was like slightly above average was Brett told me this the other day, or while we were in Miami. He said it was a Saturday afternoon. And I was still doing the teens classes at this point, just after school 3 times a week, but I couldn't have come during the week because of horses or something. So I came in on the weekend to like a big adult class, and this was really exciting. And so I think I was 13 at this point, and the workout had squat cleans at 155. And he remembers he was like, she was cycling singles like it was a barbell. And she was like 13, and he was like, holy crap, like that's not normal. That's slightly above average. She couldn't run 400 meters without having to stop and like suck wind halfway through, but she could cycle 155 at 13. So that was when kind of, I think Brett made like a mental note of like, okay. And it was that year I was too young to sign up for the Open. This was 2017. But I still did the workouts, and we kind of kept track of my scores so we could kind of line them up and see where I'd be. And I think I came 60th in the Open. And then I did the online qualifier, and I think I moved up to like 40th. And at this point I was just doing the teens classes like a couple times a week. And it was after that Brett asked me, he was like, okay, like if you like competing, if you enjoyed the whole process we just did, like I will help you to be better. And I was just like, I was so in love with competing because I'm so competitive that I was just like, I will do anything. So, and it was always like, it had to be my idea. Brett never pushed me to compete. Nobody was ever like telling me to do it. It was always like, please give me more. And he was like, no. But yeah, so Brett's been huge in that process. And he has like a history through CrossFit as well. Like he basically brought CrossFit to the island. So he lived in Korea for a while, and he was modeling there, funny enough. And so he worked at it was called Reebok CrossFit Sentinel with Phil Hesketh. You probably recognize that. Yeah. So Austin Malleolo was there like back in the day for a little bit, Phil Hesketh. And there's one more guy, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me, but he's at Invictus now. Anyway, so he worked maybe. Yeah. So he worked there for a while, and he went to regionals once and was like, that was too much work. I'm going back to coaching. So he's got like a history. He knows what he's doing. So I'm just so lucky that he found me kind of at that age and brought me along.
Oh man. And so, you start to dip your toe into the competitive waters, but, and I wrote about this last year when, I was highlighting you for one of our Young Guns pieces. Your teenage competitive career, I would say, is unusually marked by close calls and near misses. Can you tell me a little bit about that and what that did for you, and how you were able to kind of respond and adjust to that?
So that was probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me, not going to the games as a teenager, 100%. I'm so glad I didn't go to the games as a teenager now, which is so funny. But so yeah, 2018, first year I can do the Open. I came 10th in the Open. They took top 20. We were basically like, oh, you're a shoo-in. Just do the same thing you did in the online qualifier. You'll be good. Get to the online qualifier, make a mistake on a workout where it was on the rope climb workout and you had to be below an 11-foot line before you let go of the rope. I had my hand on the 11-foot line. I let go of the rope on my last rep. We look at the video after. We are like sticklers for like integrity. Knock on wood, I have never gotten a penalty in a workout of an online workout. Never. I shouldn't say that. The Open is coming up, but so anyways, we look back and we're like, okay, you need to do this workout again. You got this score once, you can get it again. Like, let's just go do it again. At this point, I have the mental fortitude of a marshmallow. I'm like, I don't want to do that workout again. It was so hard. Like, I can't. I'm like 14, right? So I've never had something like this happen to me. Mm-hmm. Anyways, we go back to the gym. I get halfway through the workout and then I just start like crying. I was just like done. It was at the end of the weekend. I was exhausted. I was like, I can't do this. We had a big chat. He was like, it's this or the games, right? Like, you have to get through it. So I get through the workout. I go about a minute and a half slower. I cannot match that time. I'm like, just so happy I got through it. We put in my slow time and I come 21st by 1 point. With my original score, I would have gone to the games like solidly, comfortably, would have been fine. But to be fair, if we had submitted that first score, they might not have even noticed, but it was just kind of for our sake. And we didn't want to have that thought of like, well, what if, so, and in retrospect, that is what taught me how to be mentally tough. That is what that entire summer after that, I was miserable, like basically cried when I trained, like the whole summer was just miserable. Right. And in retrospect, that was a really good thing. That was really, really good. And it made me so mentally strong. And then, cause I let things, like I was talking about this with someone else, I let things bother me a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it used to be almost a bad thing where I would hold on to them too much and it would drag me down. Yeah. And I almost ran into that in 2018 too, where it was just like, I couldn't get through workouts because I was just so devastated and everything was just, I was a hot mess express all the time. But again, it taught me how to be able to deal with those things. And now because of all of those, and I mean, the next year I injure my elbow, they cut it to top 10. I come 13th, miss the games again. 2020, I come second to Emma Carey and then they cancel the games, like all of these things. Each year I learned something new. I added a new tool to my belt. Like I got mentally tough. I learned how to deal with all this stuff. Like I became resilient. And honestly, I do not know if I do know if I had gone to the games as a teen, I would not be close to as good as I am now. And now I feel like I'm at a really good place where I can like pinpoint small things and get pissed off about them and hold on to them, but use it in a way that's going to make me like so much better. And be able to actually like assess it instead of letting it drag me down.
That is one of the most mature answers I think I've ever heard from an athlete ever. So good on you on that one. And I'm glad that you were able to turn those into positives. Any athlete that is good at any sport at your age has to put in a lot of work and sacrifice a lot of stuff outside of training. And that can oftentimes lead to burnout and lead to younger athletes like not wanting to do the sport anymore because they just had enough. How have you been able to avoid that so far?
Not qualifying for the games now. but just honestly though, like Brett and I have always been very, very, because one of the first things he asked me was, do you want to do this for a long time or do you want to do this and be really good at it right now? And it was always, I want to do this for a long time. Like I watched like Katrin and all the big girls and I was like, I want to be them. Like I want to do this like for my life. I don't just want to be good as a teenager. And I've always felt that way. And so that was we always kept that in mind. He has, and I've been so lucky for Brett because he has kept me in line. He has like a 10-year plan basically. And he doesn't share this with me, but he has me, like, he knows what I'm supposed to be doing, when I'm supposed to be doing it, if I'm doing too much. And he has always been able to kind of regulate that for me. And I've also been good at recognizing, I used to be worse, but like I got pretty good at recognizing when I was starting to not like it. Because I had already gone through that with gymnastics, I was able to kind of recognize like right now I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. And sometimes I would just do a class WOD for the week. Like I just come in, do the class workouts, enjoy the community, have fun with people. And then I'd be like, okay, I want to push again. And so we've always had a healthy balance of that. Plus I've always gone to public school, never been homeschooled, always had a social life. I did the high school thing. We like did that whole thing, done with that. So I never feel like I just went like as soon as we realized I was good, we didn't go like full-time CrossFit. It was always CrossFit. And now that I'm older, now we get to be CrossFit.
Yeah. And so what would you say is a kind of your normal life setup now? Because you mentioned that you're taking a philosophy class, is there a balance of school and training, and what does that look like for you in what you've worked out? Because it sounds like, it's very planned between you and your coach and the things that you want to do.
Yeah. So I do want a degree. That's like one of the things is like, I feel like I'm lucky enough that I could kind of say, I'm going to push school to the side. I'm going to go full-time CrossFit because I do feel like I can make this my career and that's what I want to do. But I also don't want to be 35 and be like, I'm a high school graduate. So I do want to, just for education's sake, have a degree. And the only thing I enjoy in school my entire life has been English and French and languages. So I'm currently technically I'm full-time. I take 3 classes. I'm an English major. So I'm in like an English literature class, philosophy, and then a sociology class right now. However, I am online full-time because I tried to go in person first semester and I was going to burn out. I managed first semester and then it was like too many Anikas. There's too many things going on right now. So the online, asynchronous type of work works really well for my brain when I can do it at my own time, my own pace works phenomenal. So right now I'm in university. But I'm just kind of chipping away. If I have to drop to 2 classes because I'm traveling too much for training or it's getting too stressful, I'm fine with that. I just constantly want to kind of chip away at some stuff, keep my brain busy as well.
Okay. You don't get to the point where you are right now unless you have a good support system at home. How have your parents helped you through everything that you're dealing with and helped you be successful?
Oh my God. I have the best parents in the whole world. I brag about my parents so much. It's actually ridiculous because my mom is one of my training partners. She giggles when I say that because she's like, I'm your training companion. But she's super fit. She came 105th in her age division last year and she was the oldest in her division. So this year she's the baby. So I'm so hyped to watch her and judge her in the open. But I remember being in junior high and Brett would be like, sorry, she'll just be another minute. Cause my training would take forever. And she'd be sitting on the bench, waiting for me to be done. She'd just wait for me. She would do anything so that I can train. And my dad, he used to do CrossFit. He has, a spinal stenosis, so he can't do a whole lot of CrossFit things, although he wish he could. But he is when I come home, he's like, I have food made. He learned basically how to cook just for me. So he's always trying new things. And he's like, I tried this. I hope you they'll both do anything for me to succeed. So no, I could not ask for any more, especially for 2 extremely academic parents, for them to be like, no, go work out full time. So no, I'm so blessed with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Learning how to, hey, that's a good reason to learn how to cook. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He could before, but once me and mom, because mom would come to the gym with me, right? And even on the weekends when I'll be doing I don't know, 8 workouts and she'll do 3 of them and scale them. She'll even, if I'm alone, she'll stick around with me and just keep me company. She'll just sit there and she'll play Mahjong on her phone, just to keep me company, just so that I'm not completely alone in the gym. So we'll get home at 8 p.m. and dad's been home alone all day. He's got food ready. No, they're the best. They tease me sometimes. They're like, when you move out, are you going to be able to cook for yourself? I'm like, yes.
Well, speaking of that, have you given much thought to that? If I want to progress in my career and I want to get to where I want to go, I might have to relocate. And what do you think about that? That's kind of a daunting thing that's looming in your future, possibly.
Yeah. And we definitely have thought about it. And even it was always yeah, that's a good idea, but that's down the road until we got to Miami. And it took me 2 whole days to get my brain into the the insane competitive, like you can imagine something. And then when you get thrown in it, you're like, oh, I didn't imagine that correctly at all. So there was definitely this energy. I don't know how else to describe it other than a vibe that I don't feel at home, no matter how hard I push myself. It is very different than 3, 2, 1, go, feeling like you just got punched in the face. Like the speed at which people go out, just the energy, like it is so completely different. That really showed me like, all right, you need to get around some competitive people more often. Cause I was uncomfortable, and I was like, for the first couple of events, it was uncomfortable, and I'm a very competitive person. So I was not used to it. And that's when I was kind of like, you need to get into that uncomfortable, I'm being chased right now kind of feeling more. So, and then it took me, I settled in eventually, but I didn't like how long it took me to settle in. So I was like, all right, it really showed me I do need to get out. So we are looking right now. I'm super lucky. I have like Cooper as my agent and Deb, because they have so many connections, and like I was able to meet so many people at Wodapalooza. So we are looking right now for somewhere where I can kind of live in the States part-time. I think I'm going to visit Vegas a bit, either after the Open or after quarters. Because I really get along with a lot of those athletes, and Justin is brilliant. So I do kind of want to go visit them and see if I fit in well, because a lot of it's just vibes too, right? I use that word so much, but I don't know how else to describe it. But the only like difficult factor is that I'll never leave Brett as my coach. We're happy to do a hybrid of things. Like we love seeing other people's programming, because we're like, oh, they did this and this together. That's really effective. Let's try that. Like he knows he doesn't know everything. I know he doesn't. I know I don't know anything. So we're super happy to like talk to other people and learn as much as we can. But he'll always be like my coach and my guy. So if we could find somewhere where we could do a hybrid, that would be perfect. But there's a little bit to sort out there.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, having been in that environment, that Vegas crew is awesome, because there's good vibes and good people all around in there. And Justin, his wife, his family, the whole Underdogs crew are top notch for sure. And you kind of touched on something that was going to be my next question is, a lot of your competitive experience is in the virtual competition, competing at home. Most of the teenage season is virtual until you get to the games. And so what was like, I was going to say, what have you done outside of, going to Wodapalooza for the first time to try and at least simulate that, or start to try and adapt to the eventuality that you're going to be in live competition, throwing down for CrossFit Games spots, because last year the Atlas Games was virtual as well?
Yeah, so that is a really good point, because we didn't know what to do. It was kind of like go in with the confidence of the work you've put in, and then figure out what happens after. Because I imagined and visualized myself being with them, but it's one of those things that like until you experience it, you're kind of just waiting, right? Like you have to experience that. So there was a lot of small things. Like I didn't realize how subconsciously programmed my brain was to compete online. So a couple different things I noticed. The first one being, I'm used to being able to redo workouts. So I have a bad habit of over analyzing a workout, breaking it down the first time, feeling it out, and then the next time coming in more aggressive. I need to be more aggressive the first time. And there's a fear thing in there. Right? Like you go home and aggressive, and what if you make a mistake? Then you're stuck, right? So that's something that we're really, really working on now, especially through the opening quarters. It's like, if you make a mistake in the first time you do a workout, it better be that you came out too hot. Because a lot of athletes have that issue where they come out too hot. I don't. So that was something that really, really showed for me, is like, you need to learn how to get it right the first time, or even just like not have that fear of, like, you have to trust yourself more the first time, like go. And the second was transitions are a thing. You're not just going in a circle the whole time. You actually have to run between movements. So Echo Fran, like there's a couple workouts from Wodapalooza that just are like, oh, when I think about them, they just like make me a little annoyed. So Echo Fran is one of them, because Fran is my favorite workout of all time. Like I want to set a world record in Fran one day. I love it. I know. I love thrusters. I'm 5'2", so I love thrusters. I'm really good at squatting, and I love pull-ups. So like, I was so hyped when that got announced. And then I realized after the fact, I was walking my transitions. I lost like probably 35 seconds because I was just walking. Like there was no sense of urgency between, like I'm watching the video and I'm like, I want to rip my hair out right now.
Oh,
so
man.
I know. So it was like something in the moment where, well, it's funny because the girls next to me, I was going faster then, but I didn't see down on the other end of the floor, Bethany, like sprinting between movements. I was like, so there's definitely that aspect now in training. I'm probably going to set up some workouts where I have to move between them and I have to run. So there's just small things like that, like execution things that you can either fix on your redo or you don't even have to worry about online. So that's definitely going to be a mental switch for me, but I am so glad it happened at Wodapalooza and not at semis.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely set me up well going into this year.
Yeah. And you kind of mentioned like you didn't notice the other athletes around. There's another element of whether it's visual distractions or, you know, the general field awareness of the athletes on either side. And, you know, the best athletes can utilize that to their advantage in terms of, you know, figuring out where they are relative to the field. And, you know, there's also the little cat and mouse games that sometimes people play in the middle of the workout. And as much as I feel like there's the common answer that we get, like, I just want to run my race, you know, that being on the competition floor, being next to some of the best in the world, attacking it in their unique way definitely adds another element to it. So I'm kind of curious if you were able to sort through that by the end, because it looked like, and I'm referring to a specific event, and I think you know which one it was in the Celebrate 10 that you won under the lights in Wodapalooza. Did you feel like you were in that flow state and able to kind of tap into that a little bit?
Oh yeah. So I came off the floor during that and I was like, that was me. Because the whole weekend I hadn't felt like me, right? There were so many small things that were just kept going wrong. I was like, you know what, you have a good workout and you just kind of know like that, like there was a couple online qualifier workouts where I'd had that feeling like you just know it was good. And obviously I knew it was good because I could see the people around me, but it was the same kind of feeling of like, finally, like it was like oh my God, there I am. Like, that's who I am as a competitor. And yeah, like again, it was tough because I was on the end and then the girls who were second and third were kind of down in the middle. And that is such a long floor. I'd have to stop and get like binoculars out to see like what movement they were on. But the announcer was great because he kept me, I was listening to what he was saying. So at least I knew I was in first. But yeah, it definitely, like that workout, it was just like my mind was saying one thing and my body was just doing what it knows how to do. And that's basically how I'm going to chase that's how I want every workout to feel. So I'm going to keep, now that I know what it feels like, I feel like I can replicate it. Cause that's a big thing for me is like, I write, Brett and I have like a full journal of things written down. So like, I know what it feels like. And now like, I know we need to do to replicate that for like every workout. So it definitely, that was like, there's a lot of things that you can experience that are hard to put into words. And that feeling of, I know where people are, I know how long I need to take before I jump up, and I'm completely confident in my abilities right now. That was a new experience. And it's definitely one that I remind myself of every day.
During that event, you were telling me in a different conversation we had that you were talking to yourself on the floor. And that seemed to be the moment that it was like everything clicked. What happened there? So
yeah, somebody noticed that. It was one of the photographers. They were like, I was taking a picture of you, but your mouth was open. I was like, yeah, I was talking to myself. But so before that event, it was like so the event before this one, I sprained my ankle on because I had some miscommunications with my judge on how to hold the kettlebells. A workout that should have been really good for me turned into a disaster a little bit. So I was pretty gutted. And typically I'm pretty good at getting my head back, but I was still just a little bit like, I knew that workout should be good for me, but going in, I wasn't excited because I was almost just expecting something to go wrong. I was just like, every workout so far has just been like, I've been a little disappointed. Like I haven't felt like myself. I actually wrote that down in my notes at 1 a.m. the night before because I could not sleep because I was so frustrated. Anyways. And so even when 3, 2, 1, go happened, it was almost like I was a little bit numb. Like I didn't have that same fire I normally do when I'm competing like myself. And then I got 2 rounds in and I realized I'd already kind of lapped someone. Like Emily Rolfe was next to me and I was already a round ahead of her and I was not tired. I was totally fine. My shoulders were fine. Everything felt good. I was still feeling poppy. And then I got 3 rounds. Then I was almost done the 5 rounds. And like, I still felt totally fine. And I know my ring muscle ups really good. And that's when it kind of clicked. I was like, Anikha, like, you can do this. And I remember before I picked up the barbell, I'm pretty sure I yelled this because I was like, Anikha, you belong here. Like, you belong here. And then every time before I picked up the bar, I would say it over and over again, just to like get it into my head. And it worked, because every time I said it, like, I went numb almost in a good way. I didn't feel my arms that entire workout. I was like, you belong here. And then Sean started saying my name, and the announcer on the floor started saying my name. And then it was just like, just a freight train. We just blew all the way through it.
That was awesome. And I will give you kudos because it allowed me to talk a little trash. One of the floor announcers, Noah Dean, cowboy hat.
Yeah.
You know, he was jokingly, because he knows Ariel Loan really well, and they're both from the same area in Texas. And so he's like, I'm calling it, Ariel Loan's gonna win this event, like jokingly in a group chat. And I was like, I don't know about that. I think there's a couple young guns that could sneak up, and you end up winning the event. And I just went back and very casually highlighted, and liked.
I love that.
His old tweet, and because of you, I got to do that. So
I love that.
Anytime an athlete lets me talk some trash with some friends, I love it.
That's awesome.
So I do. It was actually one of the few events that I got to watch from the floor.
Oh, cool.
We were back and forth the entire time, and I wanted to sneak out and see that event in particular as the Saturday night event leading into the rest of the weekend. And seeing you put down that performance and really kind of tap into the energy and the vibe and kind of convince yourself for that really kind of stood out to me, because then I look back to, another close call in the Atlas games and just missing out. And, what would you say now is the biggest difference between the athlete that finished sixth at the Atlas games and one spot away from qualifying, and the athlete that crossed that finish line first at Wodapalooza with an entire stadium full of people cheering your name?
This one actually believes she can go to the games. So one of the biggest things that this year I've convinced myself I have to do, and I actually have to start believing that good things can happen to me. And it's not even in like a believing in myself, because I've always believed I had the capacity. It's just never worked out. And so it's difficult for me to trust the universe in a sense. So that's one thing that I'm really, really trying to do this year, is like just repeat it until I believe it, because that's how it works. That's how it's funny. So you just fake it till you make it. That's what I do in training when I don't want to. I just pretend I do, and then I do. It's just so that's what I'm doing with this, is like, I am going to tell myself that good things can happen to me, and I will go to the games until I actually believe it. Because I've always believed in my capacity and my potential. It's just been like, I'm going to break my femur the day before, like Atlas, like just small things, like something's going to happen and you're not going to be able to, because that's historically what's happened. Like, I can't blame myself for thinking that way, but this year, part of me thinks I came sixth last year because I didn't actually believe I was going to come fifth. Because when we were waiting for I couldn't have done anything more on the workouts. I mean, like, maybe I made a mistake here and there, but some of the performances I put out on workouts that were not built for me could not have been happier. But there was a part of me when we were sitting and waiting. I was sitting in fourth or fifth, I think, on the second last day. And we were, scores are submitted. We're doing the same thing where we're just sitting and waiting, and not unfamiliar to me. And I'm like kind of numb, because part of me has already, like, there was no part of me that was hopeful. Like, I'd almost already accepted I wasn't going. And I think that needs to change. I can't be thinking like that, because if I was thinking like that, then I was thinking like that the whole weekend without knowing it. And having that fire of like that fire I felt when I finally felt like I belonged there, and I was actually like a contender, and like I was going to be dangerous. Like, that feeling of being dangerous, it's a very like specific feeling, and I love it. It's addicting. And I don't think I had it that weekend. Yeah. And now that I actually know what it feels like, I am so beyond hyped to get back out on a floor, because I want to bring that to every event. And so thinking back to Atlas, I don't think I felt dangerous, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I love the way you put that. And I think that's an interesting thought. You mentioned that you felt like maybe almost like good things couldn't happen. Like, you didn't deserve to have good things happen.
Yeah.
To you. And it's really tough, especially if you've had to deal with some adversity. I think a lot of people can resonate with that feeling of almost the unworthiness of like good luck and good fortune happen to you. Sometimes we feel very unworthy in that way. So I'm curious, maybe on a deeper level, maybe taking that a step further with that thought, is there any sort of tools or things or daily rituals that you're adding to turn that kind of boat around and have that feeling of worthiness for good fortune and good luck and deservedness for the work that you put in, given the fact that you do have two parents that have PhDs in psychology?
Yeah. So it's funny because to me, they're so not psychologists because I coach my mom in CrossFit. So sometimes like on a mental aspect, I'm like, I feel like I'm dealing with me as a 14-year-old. Like it's kind of funny, but no, there's definitely, so basically what I guess in past years, when I like thought about me qualifying for the games, I almost shut that thought down because I was like, you can't control that. Just focus on your training. I almost like didn't allow myself to imagine it out of fear of disappointment. And now, like, I think about it constantly and I envision exactly how I want to qualify for the games, where I'm going to be. Like, I watch it play out and I do this every day. And it's not like I know what the workouts are going to be. It's not like I know what semi I'm going to be at, but it's the general consensus of like, you just finished a workout and you're going to the games and this is how it's going to happen. And this is how it's going to feel. It's like, I don't believe in manifesting things, but it's that same kind of idea of like, you put that in your brain and you don't let it leave.
Yeah. Cause it's weird, right? Like, if you can't envision it for yourself, like if you really can't believe that you were deserving of it, like how is that really gonna play out in that way of like,
exactly.
If there's one person that should have the confidence behind that, it should be yourself because you're the one putting in the work.
Exactly.
So it's interesting to hear you say it, and it's nice to hear you say that's something that you're turning around a little bit.
When you look at your goals for 2022, making the games is, obviously the big one. But what are some other things that you want to make sure that you accomplish along the way so that you can look back on the season and be like, yeah, that was really successful for me?
Yeah, it's tough when you have one big goal. Sometimes you just get so wrapped up in that one, you almost don't have space in your brain for any small ones. And it's like, this is the one that I have just been chasing since I was 14, right? So it's like this, it takes up my whole brain. But when I think of like small things, like I'd like to be top 30 in the open. That's just kind of, I came 58th last year and I had two terrible workouts for me. But I one of my goals is like definitely top 30 in the open. But I mean, the only really like goal I have that's out of my control in a sense, like placing related goal is like to make to the games. That's top 5, whatever summary I go to, just get to the games. But then like through training, like I have more goals just when it comes to like my fitness. So like right now we are like the way we train is we pick the stuff I'm bad at and that's all we do. So like I squat cleaned yesterday for the first time in months, like haven't squat cleaned because I've just been power cleaning because I don't need to squat clean. I have a 250 squat clean. I'm fine. So like things like that. And I hit that when I was 17. So it's like, why would I squat clean? Ring muscle ups. I'm good at ring muscle ups. So I do them like twice a month, maybe. Like I echo bike like 3 times a day now. I pull off the floor in like every variation possible right now. So like my goal is to just continue to do that. So keep finding the things I'm bad at. And that's why I'm excited for the open, because part of me hopes it's one thing goes wrong so that like we can keep building, like part of like for competitions that don't matter. I almost like when there's something that bothers me because it gives me something to put all of my focus on for the next little while. So coming off Wadapalooza, echo bike, I never echo biked like as a teenager because the echo bike never shows up in online competitions. Why would I echo bike? As a 5'2" athlete, not a natural echo biker. That got discovered after Echo Fran when I asked Bethany what she was holding on the bike, and she said 75, and I said I didn't know it went that high. I was like, oh, it goes above 70. So that's a big one right now is echo bike and pulling off the floor, that devil's press. The only 2 workouts I felt I had issues in that were related to fitness and not execution was the devil's press, because I had 55 reps to catch people. We couldn't though. I heard my coach from the stands like, come on, bud. And I was like, shut up. Like I cannot go any faster right now. So right now, like most of my goals are revolved around filling in weaknesses and then the games. Those are kind of the 2 things I have in my mind. Cause I feel like if all of your goals are related to placings, like you're not chasing getting better, because that's kind of how you stay happy in CrossFit, right? You're in the constant pursuit of being the best version of you. I think Ben Bergeron probably said that, but you know what I mean? So if all your goals are attached to numbers and placings and competitions, then I like having something more related to like myself, something that I feel like I'm actively chasing every day. So those are the two big ones.
I'm kind of curious, you know, you're still very early on in your career as an athlete and stepping out on to high level competitions. And one element of that is sponsorship. And I'm always curious to see how the next batch of athletes it feels in that arena of becoming a sponsored athlete, a professional athlete. You have deals and things like that. And I know that you recently inked with Wadproof, right? And I assume, and this is just an assumption based off those pretty sweet pit vipers that you're rocking, that you might have some sort of relationship with them as well. How have you navigated that? Is that something that's come naturally to you? Does it feel weird? Is there any sort of misgivings around stepping into that arena?
No, well, luckily I don't really deal with that because Coop and Lab and Deb kind of took me on last year. Oh my God, they're awesome. They found me last year, so they were ahead of the curve. They jumped on the train before most people. So I'm so grateful for them for believing in me, because they wouldn't take me on if they didn't think I could do good things. So no, they've been the one to navigate that, which I'm so grateful for, because I'm a terrible business person. As we discovered, so it's funny. So my parents and I were just terrible business people. Like we're not, it's so bad. So I recently sold my horse, who I've had since I was 11. So that was a big change in my life, just going full-time CrossFit. But the process of selling the trailer, all of the stuff, oh my God, we probably made half of what we could have, because we're so bad at it. Like, so I am so glad I don't have to negotiate with people, because I'd just be like, okay, sounds good.
Oh, man.
So I'm so grateful for Coop for like dealing, Deb for like kind of doing that for me. And even like my Instagram, like sometimes I'm just like, Deb, I don't know how to post this. And she's like, here, let me do it for you. I'm like, thank you. So they're the best. Pit Viper and I don't have anything official. They just liked that I was wearing their stuff at Wadapalooza. So Pit Viper, if you're listening, hit me up.
All right.
There you go.
Well, hopefully they're watching or listening. And, you know, we can give a little bump. And man, if you should have talked to me about the horse stuff. My fiance is like whole family. They were like train and raise horses and
no way
trailers and stuff. And they would have given you the inside line. They know how to.
That's amazing. We've been like in the horse world since I was 3 years old. Like it was my whole life, and everybody in it is like so good at. They're all like business people. Like, and we've just never been like that. It's always just been my coaches who do that for us. And when we finally had to do it ourselves, we were like, what does it sell for on Kijiji? Like,
oh man,
there are a lot of young women out there who are, you know, interested in becoming competitors, who I'm sure are discovering CrossFit and are saying, yeah, I want to do something with this. You have walked that path and you're continuing to walk that. But to the young girls who are out there who might be listening, who have goals of becoming competitors, what piece of advice would you give them?
You got to love it first. Mm-hmm. I think if you're coming into the sport wanting to go to the games as your reason for starting it and wanting to do it as a high level athlete, and that's why you're starting, I think you kind of almost need to take a step back. And it's tough because now the games have gotten so big. I almost started before they were big enough. Like I didn't know what the games were. I didn't even know you could compete in CrossFit when I started. I just thought it was fun. And I almost think that's like the best way to do it. Learn to have fun with it before you want to compete, because if that's the only source of joy or happiness, you're not gonna love your life every day. You know what I mean? So definitely just like love it first, and love it for a reason outside of wanting to win. Like when someone asks me why I do CrossFit, obviously I'm going to say because I want to be the best in the world. But if you took the CrossFit games away, I would still do CrossFit. Maybe not as much echo bike as I do now, but I'd still do it. So definitely that, like, figure out your why without the CrossFit games. And then you can start to build. Yeah.
The last question I have for you, I believe I saw this on one of your Instagram stories, and I think it was something about music that you were listening to. And I think, and I could be wrong, I think that I saw a couple Judas Priest songs on there.
Yeah.
Do you listen to them? Like, do you even know who they are? Because I was blown away by that, because I'm usually like, these kids and their music. And then I was like, Anika Greer, like Judas Priest?
That's amazing. Yeah. So I have a playlist, and it is my I'm alone at the gym so nobody can hate me playlist. And it's called, I made it myself. It has like a whole 30 likes. It's called Drop Kick Your Cat Off a Bridge. And
Wow. That's punk rock right there. Yeah. All right. So now I gotta know what's on the playlist.
So there is a couple of JP songs on there. My dad is a huge Judas Priest fan, so I grew up listening to Judas Priest like my whole life. I love them. I love Rob Halford, icon. So Drop Kick Your Cat Off a Bridge has Judas Priest. My number one band of the year, you're never gonna guess, was Five Finger Death Punch, wow. Which is so funny. So it's got Judas Priest, 3 Days Grace, Shinedown, Iron Maiden. I love Iron Maiden, but sometimes their songs are they're just too long for workouts sometimes.
You're like, all right, let's.
I know. I'm like, I get it. I'm dying with my boots on. I get it.
The Ancient Mariner is like, what, 12 minutes long or something? Like, that song
I know.
Forever.
I know. And then there's some Godsmack, Skillet, Slipknot, Asking Alexandria, Sick Puppies, Crowbot, lot of Five Finger Death Punch. We have some Ozzy Osbourne in there.
Yeah, okay.
I like a lot of the class. Like I love Led Zeppelin. That's why I'm obsessed with your guys' shirts, the tie-dye ones.
Oh yeah.
I'm obsessed with them, but I just don't like. I never listened to that working out. So like I love the like classic rock, like Led Zeppelin, Electric Light Orchestra, like ELO is probably my favorite band of all time.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my favorite band of all time. But I like rarely listen to it, and people don't know that about me because I'm not jamming to Mr. Blue Sky while I'm doing echo bike intervals. But yeah, that's my stuff, and everybody hates it.
No, everybody does not hate it.
No,
that is.
And after hearing the lineup, I think that's an appropriate, title for your.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up and maybe give it a listen.
Yeah, maybe give it a listen.
Yeah.
Once I actually knew, I think 90% of the bands that you just named. So
they're like, and Hailstorm, Disturbed is pretty good too. My mom is like, it's so funny because she's a psychologist. She's the biggest metalhead out of all of us. So like, Disturbed's her favorite band. I know, they're cool. So this playlist I'll have, like, I love it. It's like handpicked. It's all like the best songs, and I can put it on like once a week when it's just like when nobody else is in the gym, because we'll have like the soccer moms, and I'm like, and I'm going to traumatize them.
That's good though. Never let them have the beat on you. You know, surprise me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking this playlist up, man. That sounds like good stuff.
It is good.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We really appreciate it. As just a personal note, I have a son who's 2 years old. And if he grows up to be just a third as squared away as you are at 18, I'm going to consider myself a successful parent.
Oh,
so,
that's so
your
sweet.
Parents are doing a great job. Keep listening to your music, and really looking forward to seeing what you do in 2022.
And we got a couple of shirts heading your way. So
I know. I'm so glad. Thank you so much. Oh, I had so much fun chatting with you guys.